This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is Ashley Eckstein, Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to Coffee with Kenobi. This is your spoiler-free place for Star Wars community and conversation. I'm your host, Dan Zare, thrilled to be talking Star Wars with each and every one of you. Whether you're interested in the movies, Disney Plus, collectibles, or just want to talk about Star Wars, this is the place for you. You can support Coffee with Kenobi by following the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and TikTok, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help spread the word by tweeting that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with all of us. Coffee with Kenobi is a proud member of the Spreaker Prime program. A huge thanks to the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. If you are interested in a no-cost, no-obligation quote for your next vacation, check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel and let them know Coffee with Kenobi and Dan Zare sent you. And by the way, if you really want to explore the Galactic Star Cruiser, we are going as a special group June 12th to the 14th of 2023. Go ahead and sign up for that no-cost, no-obligation quote. Mention me and the Galactic Star Cruiser, and we can experience this amazing, incredible Star Wars experience unlike anything else. Thank you also to members of the CWK Alliance. Find out how you can join the Alliance for as little as $1 a month and get access to exclusive podcasts, videos, and much more at coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. On today's bonus show, I chat with members of the Hasbro Star Wars team and other fan sites, YodaNews, Fly Guy, Bossk's Bounty, Toy Tribe, and Lacy from the Resistance broadcast. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
So my name is Jing. I'm the brand manager here on Star Wars. So without further ado, we can go through the questions quickly. I'm just going to go down the list. The first person I have is Tim.
Hi.
Hi, good morning.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's afternoon here, but good morning. Thanks very much for the opportunity again, and for myself and my community and what have you to ask the questions. It's really appreciated. The first question I have is many vintage collection collectors were disappointed to see that the revealed Andor Aldani figure has the incorrect boots, which has been taken from the Scarif Trooper, and it's been used on other figures as well. While the Black Series version is screen accurate. Can you offer an explanation as to why that was?
Yeah, we're going to start off with the design question. I think Chris, as the designer, would be best suited to explain that, and I don't want to do him injustice with that. So when he jumps on, I'll definitely pimp this over to him. Sorry, do you want to answer the next one or ask the next one, Tim?
This one might be more for you. Yeah. So the recent vintage collection comic style Boba Fett's are $5 more than any other exclusive, and $10 more than the original Return of the Jedi Boba Fett that it's based, that uses the sculpt from. Why is this? And also, are you not concerned that $22.99 for a 3.75-inch figure will drive people out of the hobby?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And to be honest, we got that a few times, or we're getting that a lot. I will say this, we have publicly gone out with our SRP, and we cannot change the pricing of the retailer. Pricing is ultimately at the discretion of the retailer. So I think some fans have noticed that as well, that it is different than the pricing that we have gone out with as well. So that would be for one thing. And then the other thing is we are noted some concerns over Boba Fett as well. And I think that's something Chris and team has dug into and can speak to. Definitely more satisfactory in terms of what goes into the cost of Boba himself. He is usually a bigger figure, and it's something that with more deco and accessories and things along those lines, something that he can definitely speak to more.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on, Dan.
All right. Good morning and good evening, everybody. I'll jump around on my questions a little bit too. And of course, we're not looking for spoilers. I know you can only reveal what you can reveal. But what can you share about the future of the retro line? Of course, I'd love to ask about Indiana Jones too, but I know that's a different conversation.
Yes. So we love the retro line. As you know, we've done some fun things with it recently. We've also have both the classic that we've done, like the classic traditional original, as well as going into that new entertainment. So I think that definitely is an opportunity for us to continue to look at what that new entertainment means for us and gives us opportunities to just expand the retro line beyond what it has been in the past. So that's something that we absolutely look for. The 5 POA, figures at 3 3/4 inch is something that just really opens the door in terms of exploring new things. As you know, that we've done some vac metal options as well. So it's nothing to share at this point, but definitely something that we're excited to continue to expand upon in the future. All right, thank you. Moving on to the next one, the Black Series Instagram, Matt in Australia. So
yes. Thank you for hosting this question roundtable thing again. It's always good to do. I'm going to jump to question 3, which I don't think is designed, but the last roundtable we discussed what the Black Series community could do in order to get some greater character selections, etc., in note compared to what the TVC did. And I think Chris said, well, the TVC was really good at doing fan polls and getting that kind of information out there from the community and doing that. So I guess my quick question is that our page has been doing recent polling of A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, and we'll keep working through the saga, and that's getting 700, 800 comments of different people's feedback on what they want to see from those franchises. Are you aware of them? Are you across them?
Yeah. So we are lucky in that we have access to quote unquote fan research without even needing to do more than visit your pages and your polls and your forums and your discussions and your videos on YouTube and things like that. So I have to say that Star Wars is unique in that the information you guys gather are just so abundant. So yes, absolutely. I will say the design team especially, and when Chris comes here, he can speak to it, like are nonstop pinging about all the posts that do go out there. So for one, I do appreciate how much information you guys do gather, and it really shows the passion from the community. And it's something that does go into our thinking. It's definitely a place, a resource, a source of information for us as we go into like discussions about the future. So for one, thank you for doing that. It's something that absolutely is valuable to us. And 2, we're very aware about everything that is put out, especially for you, for the Black Series community as well. And yeah, nothing to share at this point, but appreciate that.
Thanks.
Cool. All right, I think I did miss Dan, Coffee with Kenobi.
I asked the retro question.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you so much.
Steven, Fly Guy.
How you doing? Look, thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you can't answer every question, but we'll jump to one that's not kind of designed.
Cool.
I think the reason I kind of gathered and scooped up some fans over the years was a love of Mandalorians, Boba Fett, Troopers, and it just seems like such an easy one to do in my mind. And Matt and I, we do a podcast, and it's just the one thing all our fans keep saying is, why can't we get more Troopers? They're such an easy thing to do. A little bit of paint, backpack gun, swap next, and just go on and on. So we have so many ideas. I think we give away so many in the episodes every time. Can we get a trooper line, like a military line or an army line or something where we just get the same stuff? We don't mind. We just want troopers. So help us.
Okay. Well, thank you for saying that. No, we appreciate that. And I love these ideas. And for us, we love our troopers as well, which is why we invested in a lot of the new ones, like you've mentioned. So it's something we keep in mind constantly, and we do plan it out. And we've, dabbled in opportunities like you mentioned, gaming grades, troop builder lines, and different variations in mainline and exclusive. So something that we'll definitely continue to look into. It's a welcome comment. If you have thoughts on ones that the fan community in general would love, you mentioned a few already. It's something that we can definitely bring back to the team and put on our drawing board.
Good.
But I'm glad that you like the new troopers.
Oh, the new troopers are awesome. The phase 2 and the new stormtrooper. We are just huge fans of that body, that build, which lets you do anything. So keep them coming.
Oh, I love to hear that. Thank you. I think Lacy's still not here, so I'm going to move over to Mark.
Yeah, good morning, everybody, and thanks for having us. So I'm going to actually flip back to a follow-up to the first question that was asked so that we can kind of button that up. How does Hasbro plan on maintaining costs in 2023? You're going to do fewer accessories, less paint apps. I mean, the price increase we got, we've never had so many questions come in about it not being sustainable going forward. So is there any plans on the table for this year on how you're going to work on that, or it's still status quo?
Yeah, I mean, for one, we recognize and appreciate that comment. As you know, at Hasbro, we really do try to give you guys like the best quality products for the community, without sacrificing quality and still maintaining that cost. And we certainly recognize like the macro challenges, like you mentioned, facing companies like beyond Hasbro worldwide, something that we balance on the Hasbro side as well. I will say, nothing to share by any means of that, but the team works very diligently and very hard, both the engineering, the design, high level, down to everyone working on the day-to-day, doing the paint ops for every single blaster or things along those lines, to balance that while giving us the quality products that we expect from Hasbro. So, I would not mention anything along those lines. It's just something that we would absolutely keep in mind and fight to make sure that we give you guys the products that you need.
Thank you.
Morning, Chris.
Morning.
Rough
for sure.
morning. Afternoon, evening for the rest of for some of the folks here.
Yeah, sorry guys. Sorry I was late. Computer issues. But
yeah,
I'm nestled in now.
nice. So we're going to go back up. We just did the first round. We're going to go through the second round. So Tim, you mentioned a question that I think would be great for Chris to answer with the boots. Do you want to just quickly mention that again? And he can answer it.
Sure. Morning, afternoon, Chris. So the first question was, many vintage collection collectors are disappointed to see that the revealed Andor Aldani figure has the incorrect boots. The boots have been taken from like the Scarif Trooper and the Migs figure and what have you, while the Black Series version is screen accurate. So can you offer an explanation for why that is?
Yeah, it's an easy one. I mean, it was just a matter of we didn't have the budget for a fully new tooled figure for that figure. So we did a partial and tried to be as creative as we could to get the figure out. I mean, but in that case, it ended up with inaccurate boots. I mean, it still looks pretty close, but I mean, it wasn't an ideal situation. It's part of that stuff we always talk about of a balance and finding a way to deliver figures. That was the compromise on that figure, to be able to deliver that character in that outfit. That's all that was.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Tim actually asked the other question. I answered part of it, but it would be good for you to just respond to it as well, Chris. It's about the Boba Fett's and their price discrepancy. In general, but Tim, not to put words in your mouth, asking about the price point and why Boba is more expensive. And Chris, I know you can speak to the design side of that if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, so in Boba Fett figures across the board, Black Series, TVC, they're all super expensive figures, and a lot of that, probably the largest part of that, is the number of pieces that go into making him. So anytime you start getting separate pieces, I mean, all the shoulder pads and the overlays of his outfit and the backpack and the different pieces of the backpack, all that goes together, and it's expensive to tool that because there's so many different tools to make those parts, but also I would say probably the biggest expense on that figure is assembly labor, where it takes time to put all those parts together. So, and Boba Fett is a unique one in Star Wars. I mean, there are other characters with a lot of detail, but some of the other ones, the detail can be sculpted on them. But Boba Fett with his layers, it becomes so complicated. And Boba Fett, I mean, he also tends to be high deco. Not always. Like some of the redecos that we've done of him are less deco. They're still, I would say, like those comic book versions of him, there's still more deco than a traditional figure might be, but the biggest part of the cost of Boba Fett is his assembly labor and pieces.
Yeah, if I could just sort of come back on that point, if you wouldn't mind. I think it's just because, the average fan that doesn't really sort of know about tooling and costs and what have you, they look at the Return of the Jedi one that was in the main line for what, $12.99 or whatever it was back then. Same figure, but just a repaint. It's almost like, if you've not made enough money on that original one already, why does it cost so much more than the original one just to put a repaint out? I think that's just the basic sort of question that they have in their head,
Yeah, well, they think that my guess is that they're assuming that once we do the figure the first time, that everything's paid for and it's easy to do another one. Yeah. Well, every time you do that figure, it's not like he comes out of the molds together. Humans have to sit there and put all those pieces together every time we do a Boba Fett. So unless we would not do that, and I think that's the problem. Like, he's a popular character, and we know fans like him, like variants of him, but he's not one that you can average into other people. He's just so expensive and just exceptional. And I would say maybe that first release gets averaged into the other figures in its assortment and stuff to make him possible and to get him out there. But then all the specialness of Boba Fett just comes back in every time that we do one.
We do have to move on because I know there's a lot of questions. I will say this is, for the fans that don't get it, this is a good forum to kind of speak to it. And I think moving forward is something that we can definitely in live streams or something along those lines, like just talk about all the things that go into making this product and just further communicate that. So thank you, Tim, for asking that question. Dan, Coffee with Kenobi.
Thank you. All right, so I want to talk about the sculpts on the figures. The head sculpts are just works of art. They're absolutely beautiful. This photorealistic process. I'm fascinated by it. I can't imagine it's like the selfie series where Harrison will just look in there and scan his face and text you, a nice little thing. But how does that actually work, especially for some of the, making Mark Hamill look like it's 1977? How do you do that?
We've got some really talented people that work with us. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, the portraiture capabilities of some of our sculptors are just off the wall. I mean, they're that good. And sometimes with newer stuff, we get lucky that we get an assist from a 3D scan that Lucasfilm will do as part of production. But that only gets you so far, because when you go to make molds of a figure, the plastic will shrink in different ways. And the thicker the cross section, the more it tends to shrink. So you actually have to kind of take that into consideration, how your sculpt, because your original sculpt it's going to distort a little bit, I would say, when it goes into plastic. So sculptors that have been doing it for a long time in the industry understand how much different things are going to shrink. Like his head's going to change this way. That's going to tweak the look a little bit. So I have to make him a little extra this. Or even, I want to say caricature something, but it is kind of that too, where when you're talking about a head that's 3/8 of an inch tall and you want it to look like a person, you kind of do have to pick out some caricature features of them and highlight those things. But it's an art form, and the team that works on that stuff, I mean, I've worked with some talented people over 30 years of doing this stuff, and the team we've got on this are some of the best.
Thank you for that question, Zan. Well, Chris, we'll try to go a little bit faster just to make sure we get some more questions in. Matt, Black Series Instagram.
I'll make this one a quick and easy one. This is from the community. The pipeline reveal of the Phase 2 clone trooper that's coming. Has that new tooling been done to be movie accurate? Is there a new helmet?
It's a new helmet, yeah.
Okay, cool.
You're right. That was a quick one. Thank you.
Flyguy.net.
It's about the plastic. It's number 1 in my list, which is this was the pinnacle, I think, for a lot of Black Series fans. The clone Obi-Wan Walgreens exclusive from many years ago. Whatever you did on this thing, just keep doing it. It's just phenomenal. It was just this one of those face sculpts that just stands out on a shelf. And yet some of the other figures maybe from that point, maybe like an Obi-Wan, it's hard to say obviously, but you'll know what I mean. Obviously you look at these things every day, but they have a kind of sweatier appearance. They have like a shine. I guess it's plastic based, but what made this guy so good and others kind of not so good? What can we do?
That sheen that everybody's referring to as the sweaty face it's a lack of matte finish. So on that Obi-Wan in the armor figure that you showed, he's got layers of matte finish on his face after the other deco. So he'll get all decoed, he'll get the printing for his face, and then go back in and we add a matte finish to it to tone all that down and even it out. It's something that as we're developing new systems and stuff, some of those early figures have the vendor either forgot on some of the figures to do that matte finish or didn't get the note to do that. So some of those have fallen short of what we wanted. I mean, we know how to deal with it, and it's always part of our instructions to deal with it. Sometimes it gets missed, and it's just doing so many things. That's one that unfortunately some of those figures got past us that did that. But it is just a matte finish spray on the face that changes that. So even the clone armor Obi-Wan would be sweaty faced if he didn't get those matte finishes on his face. Yeah. It's not about plastic molding stuff or anything. It's just that.
Awesome. I hope you can do more because it's such a great example. So more of that, please.
Yeah, it's always part of our direction packet that we send to the factories. So
cool. Thanks, Chris.
So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, Matt, YodaNews.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of put two into one in the interest of time because they kind of go with each other. One we got like 15 straight was of what a pre-order still out. Isn't that the whole point of the pre-orders, is so that you could gauge interest for how many people want? And then in connection with that, how come it seems like we never see them on the stores like the regular Walmarts and Targets are supposed to be at? And then someone reports in that, Ollie's has 24 of them, or no matter where you go, it's always Lando. I mean, the Vantage collected Lando. Every Lando known to man is there, and then 2 Rays, and then you go to Ollie's and it's the whole new wave. So how does that whole thing work?
Yeah, and sorry, Mark.
That's okay.
My apologies. For one, so the pre-order quantities are dictated by the retailer themselves and usually balanced with having product on shelf. It depends on what they have and their allocation to pre-order versus stocking their shelves, which actually goes into your second question. So when we have quantities like that, it's always good. It does help us gauge for future items as well. So we will notice like Obi-Wan with the matte face sells like crazy, and then we'll expand the quantities and expand pre-order quantities for future. Like that's something that we take into account. And we work closely with the retailer for that. In terms of your next question and how it shows up in Ollie, I would say that is, from our understanding, not the norm. And if you are seeing things like that, like I understand, like probably Landos or things, some figures, but beyond that, let us know and we'll dig into it. We are aware of a few instances where it was just a hiccup, but if it goes beyond that, I think if there's more forums or chats about that, we'll definitely keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. All right, Lacy, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I have a 14-month-old, so it's been an adventure.
Okay, I feel you. Enough said, I feel you.
Yeah. So I'll just kick it off with a couple questions. I appreciate your time. I'm so sorry I'm late. So we have so many different age groups, especially an interesting age group is the one that's coming into buying, like the one that started with The Force Awakens that's now coming into buying toys and coming into being part of the fandom. What is your plan for attracting those kids that have come in a little later? Because I know a lot of the figures and stuff are focusing on the original trilogy. Now, we all love that, but what about the kids that maybe started with the sequel trilogy?
Yeah. So I think what's great about our line is that we can attract both kids and adults, and it's collectible for both. For sure. And so it's something we keep in mind, especially when new entertainment comes out, for example, like Mandalorians. Like, have you seen the little Mandos running around? So it's something that we absolutely dig into for insights as we think about both those communities. But we definitely have to balance, and we say that a lot, but we have to balance those requests that we hear loud and clear on the original trilogies or going back and, making some of those main characters or things along those lines, along with what kids want. I do want to share that, like, obviously you see us on the fan side. We have a whole group just like us on the kids side. There are not on live streams and we don't share their product as much on live streams or panels, but trust me, there's a dedicated focus on Hasbro for expanding that base because kids to us are so important. So it goes beyond.
Awesome.
Just
so there's
figures.
A kids side of the Star Wars Hasbro team.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah. There's a whole like the
team design. Yeah.
Yeah. Kid and fan is kind of how we split it. And it's at least 50-50. I mean,
oh, that's
like,
really cool.
We're all in the same meetings.
Oh, very fun.
Hey, kids are going to turn into adults who are going to be fans, and so we gotta keep the stream flowing.
Yeah, no, we foster that talent in that community as much as possible. So we just don't share about it as much because obviously we got to know our audience.
Right, of course.
Yeah, but absolutely, it's something we'll keep in mind both on our side as we just like develop in general, but also just generally at Hasbro as we create products. There's definitely things that we target and hope to attract that younger audience.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Cool. All right, I'm going to go back up to round 3. Tim, Bossk Bounty.
Hi there. Yeah, this one's for Chris again, if you don't mind. So the recent vintage collection speeder bike, except for a few minor details, is very, very similar to the 2012 Toys R Us exclusive. Why was it necessary to use precious tooling budget on an all new speeder bike when potentially you could have gone back to use that one? Because the 2012 version actually has some functionality that the new one doesn't.
Yes. And so there were a lot of decisions that went into that. And the biggest one for me was, well, I guess 2 were accuracy and cost. The new one's much more accurate scale wise to the real thing, and then cost wise. So some of the stuff we did where we limited some of the pieces that made the thing up, made it a more affordable product to make, because with, like, I mean, you guys have seen it as much as anybody. The costs of production and all this stuff are going up continually. And to make the old one, it would have even had to be more expensive. So in the end, it worked out to be a better option to deliver a more accurate and more affordable product to just retool the thing and start from scratch.
Okay. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
And for us, it's definitely important to have that speeder bike for 40th. I think that was a big piece
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
100%,
we were gonna do it, and that was the way to get it to everybody in the best, most affordable way.
Dan, Coffee with Kenobi.
So I'm curious for both of you, really. Can you talk about some of your favorite Star Wars action figures growing up and what they meant to you? Because something must have led you to where you are now.
Well, I could talk for hours on this one, but I'll try to be quick. I was prime Star Wars kid. Like, I grew up in it. I grew up in Cincinnati, where Kenner was. So, like, you go to garage sales and there'd be bins of stuff from Kenner employees sitting at garage sales. I mean, Droid Factory set and all that stuff where it was a giant box of Droid Factory parts. All that sort of stuff. That's how I grew up. Action figure wise, for me, I would say my favorites of the original line were Walrus Man will always have a special place in my heart. He's just so bizarre. The flippers, like, he was my bathtub toy. He was everything. Like, he was great. So him and those kind of original Cantina aliens, Hammerhead, Greedo, like those, they were just so weird and bizarre and perfect in that time frame. That was kind of it for me. That was my foundation. I doubt Jing played with the toys in the 70s.
I wish I can speak to the 70s as much, for sure, but no, I can't. And then for me, it's just, whatever toys, honestly, I could get my hands on, and then just watching the movies on the show, or on TV at that point. And it's something that, like, I feel lucky enough that I get to be here and talk about Star Wars and be in front of you guys. To be honest, it, like, really is something that I never thought would be possible. Just like I'm sure everyone on this Zoom call, or not Zoom, this meeting is all about as well. So
this is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Matt from Black Series Instagram.
My next question is, what is the future of the archive line? Previously on one of these roundtables, Chris, you and I were discussing the Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan, and I wanted the head that Stephen held up before on a other Jedi body to make the perfect Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan, and you said we've got to stick to the original figure and improve the head and make it better, and that's the credence or the motto of the archive line. And then in the next wave, Leia Bouche has a height adjustment, and Old Man Solo got a totally brand new head sculpt. And I guess my point back then and point now is Old Man Solo could have made its way into the main line with a Force Awakens chapter of the new saga boxing and all that, but it remained an archive line with a changed piece, which was not meant to be the archive way.
Yeah. So, Jing, do you want to talk to that, or do you want me to cover it? And I can hit it. It's so for the Leia figure in particular, she was just way out of scale, and that was one that felt like it would be. I mean, she's certainly a figure we kind of felt like we had to do in that assortment. But to do her in the inaccuracy that she was originally just felt a step too far. I don't want to get into like all the requirements for archive and why those figures are, but they sit kind of separate from our main line figures, and they don't take away from the item count that we would do in mainline. And we couldn't move like Old Man Solo into mainline without giving up something in mainline. So there was a way to do him in there and give him an update. And generally speaking, yeah, we want to try and release those figures as they were originally with a small deco update. But those two specifically, I mean, it's Han. Like, I love it.
So, I think it was the right decision.
Updating him, and then when we do that and we make those kind of updates that are beyond our normal scope of archive, we try and be very clear with fans. Like, hey, like if you guys are collecting unique sculpt stuff, like you want to get this. This is an improvement here. Go get this. If it's just a deco update, like we try and be clear about that too.
Yeah. So it's I mean, to be fair, it wasn't the intention of archive. It's not something we would have, come out the bat with, but we just couldn't put out Leia in the form that she was in, for example. So
yeah,
the team fought really hard to make sure that one was updated and still kept within the archive line.
Okay, thanks.
Fly Guy.
Look, I understand the point. This is the Tamura Morrison head, by the way, really tiny. You can't see it there, but I prized this thing out of the helmet, out of one of the troopers, and it's a great sculpt. I get it. It's probably a licensing thing, which you don't have to even go into. But I guess that the point was, could you even just make, just rather than a Tamura head, just give us a blank piece of plastic so that we can still remove the helmets and maybe put on our own troopers' heads and so forth on the Black Series figures. So as much as we'd love you to give us more Tamura Morrison and clones, I understand you can't do it all the time because literally he would fill the line and licensing would be all Tamura given he's a clone. But yeah, just even a blank head would allow us to, customs and do your own thing, but get the helmet off without damaging it. Possible?
Well, the helmets will likely always be glued to a head. Even if it was a generic head under there, we would still want to glue the helmet to it, because if the helmet's removable, we're going to want to deco that head and add that cost into the thing.
Right.
So gluing the helmet on there, and it's glued so that it's not supposed to come off, but people can pry that off if they want to. I've done it. But it's not meant to come off. So if it was meant to come off, like I said, it would increase the cost of things, and it's not like that individual's figure cost would go up, but it might ripple across other things and affect kind of the average cost of stuff, and it's just a way to manage that.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Let's I know we're out of time, but let's finish this round. Mark, YodaNews.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'll try to make this one quick and kind of combine a couple of mine as well. Most of us have been on these things for years. We love them. Thank you again. And in previous years, the question comes up of, how do you guys decide on what new figures are going to come? And then someone had said at one point, well, we've got our standard that comes down from LFL, be it Disney now, of, we need Vader, we need Luke, we need the Stormtrooper. They want the core characters in one of the waves. And then you guys have, I guess open idea to pitch to Hasbro. So what I wanted to know, and a lot of our readers, was we imagine this room of you guys on one side getting ready to box, and Hasbro and on the other side, and you guys representing the fan side. I mean, you're all Hasbro in one, but saying, hey, we really want to get this figure, and they say, well, you can't have it because of this. Is it that really kind of going back and forth with each other? Is it more like, here's a list, we want to make 10, and they say, okay, I'll start with this 5 or something like that, and then we'll look at these later? Is it like a mutual thing?
Yeah, it's much more of a partnership in general. We tend to, so Lucasfilm will have kind of here's the new entertainment coming, here are characters that we think will be standout characters in that new show. And here are classic characters that that we think will be important this year. They give us those kind of insights from their side. We go back, we look at what we've done, what we as fans here want to do, what we think makes sense for where we're doing things in the line. We'll put together a proposal of those figures, and then once we've all agreed on that here, we take it to them. And generally speaking, because we've done all that early communication, it's just a quick sign off and, yeah, it looks great. Or, hey, maybe you guys should think about this guy here because this is happening. And surprise, yeah. So
cool.
Yeah, it's very much a back and forth and a collaborative experience.
Yeah, lots of meetings in a given week to keep that communication flowing. But that's quite an insight.
Yeah.
It's definitely not that. We're not.
Yeah, it's not boxing across the table from anybody. No, it's driven by fans both here at Hasbro and at Lucasfilm.
Cool, Lacy.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you guys have been talking about all these kind of innovations that you've had across all the different lines, especially in these types of roundtables over the past few years. So my question is like, what's next? What's the next big innovation that you guys want to do for these lines, whether it be happening, which you don't have to say, or something you just like to see yourselves?
Well, things we just like to see ourselves, I don't think we can talk about either because those are the things we might be doing. But to your point, like that's something we're always trying to do is trying to innovate in there and bring newness to Black Series, to TBC, to all that. We have some stuff coming that I think will excite people. But sometimes that's small, sometimes that's big. But it's kind of a continual development of the line. So I mean, in TBC sometimes that's barbell hips. And Black Series sometimes that's, I don't know, that's a new way to put a shoulder on a figure. I mean, that's all great innovation. And sometimes there are bigger steps, and we hope to bring you guys some bigger steps.
So
awesome.
We are always thinking, we have creative folks here, and we have folks that definitely stick to the main. Like, we won't mess with what's great in terms of vintage and Black Series while adding those pieces that make it better. But yeah, there's more coming, of course, down the pipeline. So all right. Thank you all for joining us. We ran a little bit over, and I know we started a little bit late, so we do have to run as well for the next session. But I appreciate you all joining us, and of course, like, it's always good to hear from you and questions from your community as well. So appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is...
Thank you so much to Hasbro and my peers in the Star Wars collecting community as we talked all about some of the exciting things coming from Hasbro and the Star Wars line. I also want to thank the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi, which of course is MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Check out coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan travel for a no-cost, no-obligation quote. And it's not just to Disney, although that is certainly their specialty. That no-cost, no-obligation quote can help you plan on if you will join us June 12th to the 14th of 2023 on the Galactic Star Cruiser. It's me, members of the Coffee with Kenobi fan community, Star Wars lovers, travelers, everything. It's going to be so exciting. You get to spend the day with me on Batuu at Walt Disney World, cruise all around, play sabacc, have some blue milk, all the blue and green milk you can drink, by the way. Again, it's a no-cost, no-obligation quote at coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefan travel. They will also help you plan your magical vacation to anywhere you'd like to go, and you can also support me and Coffee with Kenobi in the process. CWK Live is Monday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time at coffeewithkenobi.com/live or on the Facebook Coffee with Kenobi page. The CWK Cafe Facebook group at coffeewithkenobi.com/community is your place for Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler and drama-free place. Lots of great pictures, conversations, immediate reactions to the Bad Batch, a lot of fun. Coffee with Kenobi is possible because of the members of the CWK Alliance. Thanks to you, the podcast, Facebook Live, event coverage, and so much more comes to life. Find out how you can help this show for as little as $1 a month by joining the CWK Alliance, and you'll receive access to CWK Pour-Over, an exclusive weekly audio and video podcast not heard or seen anywhere else. Members of the Coffee with Kenobi Alliance All-Star level receive a video edition of CWK Pour-Over and access to a private Facebook group as well. Plus, CWK Alliance Grand Masters join me for a monthly live video call. To find out more, go to coffeewithkenobi.com/CWK Alliance. And most importantly, 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospitals. CoffeeWithKenobi.com is your place for Star Wars news and announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. You can absolutely email me, danz at coffeewithkenobi.com. Connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zer, MRZEHR, on Instagram, DanZerCWK, and on LinkedIn. Coffee with Kenobi is on social media, including Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, TikTok. You can give the show a like at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi or subscribe to Coffee with Kenobi's YouTube channel. Please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. It helps to move us up in the rankings when you type in Star Wars. It helps the show so much, and I really, really appreciate it. If you love the logo and want it on a hoodie, t-shirt, coffee mug, or other cool little things, including notebooks, go to coffeewithkenobi.com/shop. Finally, if you want to start a podcast or a brand or expand on what you are currently doing, I can go and help you at danzmedia.com. I'm also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. Thank you again for joining me. When you watch The Bad Batch, be sure to get your top 5 ready for next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, and I will return very, very soon with more Coffee with Kenobi. Until then, I need a great tagline. Does anybody have an idea for a great tagline? You know, I know what I say at the beginning of the show. I never, over 10 years almost, I never know how to properly sign this up because, you know, you could say, may the force be with you, but, you know, that everyone says that. Help me out. Give me a good suggestion, and I will see you next time.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.